We're happy to bring you today's webinar, which is Unlocking Achievement in Digital Badging and Micro-Credentialing in Continuing Education. Big title name for a big webinar. We have a lot to discuss today. We're glad that you're here with us. Thank you for attending. All right, let's talk about our speakers briefly. We have with us Dr. Ginger Malin. She's the founder and CEO of BadgeCert. BadgeCert is the leading digital badging and credentialing, and your leading leader in the digital, digital credentialing world. Ginger herself is an award-winning professor and has published widely on the subjects of digital credentialing, learner engagement, and educational technology. Thank you for being here with us, Ginger. We also have Sam Hirsch with us. Sam is a strategic account executive here with Cadmium. He specializes in making sure our customers get the most value from their educational content using Elevate, which is one of Cadmium's LMS platforms. Sam brings deep expertise in helping organizations optimize their continuing education programs, and will share with us a little bit about that today. All right, thank you again both for joining us. I would like to ask Ginger to get us started by providing a little bit more about herself, about BadgeCert, and provide a foundation for us on the concept of digital badging and micro-credentialing, and also how these tools can help us revolutionize the continuing education landscape. So welcome, Ginger.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm so thrilled to be here with everybody today. We're going to talk a little bit about digital badging, as Amanda had said, as well as looking at it from a more holistic standpoint of looking at micro-credentialing, which is another buzzword in the space that I'm just going to go over a little bit with you today. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about some of those integrations between BadgeCert and the different Cadmium platforms. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go share my screen. I'd like to just in general, when we're talking about digital badges, just go ahead and get started on what digital badges are, how they function, and some of the values that they present in the broader landscape. So as an example, here's a digital badge. You can see there's two elements of a digital badge. One is the actual icon. So you see the icon on my screen right now. That icon can be completely customized. So it gives you a lot of freedom as an organization to really represent what it is that you want to recognize for somebody's achievement. And the reason that organizations choose digital badges over, let's say, a printable certificate is that one, it is something that is verifiable, public, and portable. So if somebody receives a digital badge from your organization, it means that they have been recognized by your organization, and our platform really provides that security layer. So we validate that this particular digital badge gets assigned to this particular person by this particular organization. So our platform basically provides that structure, that infrastructure for that capability. So again, here's your digital badge. So that icon can be anything you'd like. And on the right of the screen, it provides that metadata. So as I mentioned before, unlike a printable certificate or a paper certificate, you have no idea what somebody did in order to earn that credential. But with digital badges, somebody who is displaying this badge on, let's say, LinkedIn or Facebook or X or resumes, on websites, on all sorts of different digital medium, somebody will then, in viewing that badge, can get a better sense of what that person did in order to accomplish that that specific credential, or in general, what they did in order to earn that badge from you. So that's where that metadata comes in. So there's a variety of fields here. Some are optional and some are required. So who it's issued to, that's the person's name. That's a required field. But you can also put in other things like their title or their company name, certificate, license number, employee ID. Your issuing organization will also be represented here, along with a link to your organization's website. So again, if somebody's viewing this badge from any of the social media platforms I mentioned, or a resume or a website, they can also then get linked back to your organization's either homepage, or more a nuanced page, like if it's a certification, the certification page, or if it's a membership, the membership page. So again, you're providing that opportunity to utilize this person's credential as a way to market or expand your reach for your credential in general. Other things you can put in there are location. Your issue date will also be represented there, and many organizations will obviously issue badges going forward, but you can also retroactively issue badges to get everybody on the same page. So again, if it's a certification, you can issue badges to everybody and provide it as a vehicle to have everybody on the same page in terms of where those issue dates lie. Expiration is also an interesting feature here, because if you have an expiration on your credential, so again, I'm going to use certification as the example, The date will be represented here, and our platform will automatically send messages at different intervals that you select that say, hey, your badge is going to expire in 30 days. Please click here to submit your dues, or please click here to take a survey. Please click here to submit your CEs. So lots of different ways that you can recognize somebody, have that expiration setting be utilized, and then provide that messaging to them at different intervals. You'll also have a detailed description of the Met competency, and you can also put in what we call URL evidence or any kind of artifact. So PDFs, links, anything like that. And if you want to, you can also provide a digital certificate, a downloadable certificate or wallet card, which Sam will also talk a little bit about in terms of what Cadmium can provide as well. So a couple other things that I just want to mention about digital badges and about the platform in general. Here I am at the back end of the platform. I'm just going to walk you through a couple different other features that I think are relevant to our conversation today. One is actually, again, when you set up your badge, you can have that expiration feature. So your badges can gray out upon expiration. Then you're going to put in a lot of different other metadata fields. So I'm just going to walk through that real quick. Along with any kind of optional fields if you'd like to add those as well. And then the last part, and again, this goes back to the Cadmium type of offering, is that you can also add in what we call micro-credentialing fields. So when we think about micro-credentialing, it is badge A plus badge B plus badge C leveling up to badge D. So you can provide automaticity within the levels. A lot of organizations use that for different levels within their own certification. So one of the things I always mention when I'm talking to certification providers is that sometimes you want to get new people to the industry involved. So you may want to have a pre-certification, the certification, and then somebody who has certification plus. So that's one way we look at micro-credentials. And another way may be that you want to create a webinar series or a different kind of learning management types of training, where it will have different levels associated with different stages that somebody goes through in order to accomplish their learning. And you can have that be represented by badges and have those stacks. So you can do that and just say basically like, if somebody earns these 3 badges, they automatically get this 4th badge that I'm creating. So you have that capability of adding in those micro-credentials, and that really dovetails really well with the learning management system that Sam's going to talk about as well. So for our purposes, I'm just going to highlight this, click submit, and now you see my badge is ready to go right here. So a couple last things that I just want to mention is a little bit about data, because unlike, again, a printable certificate, you have access to a lot of different data points that'll help you understand engagement. So the engagement that your credential holders have with their badges or with their credentials. So one of the things you're able to do is you can export files. I'm just going to open up a file real quick. And from here, you can see all the information related to each badge, including all the URLs that have been assigned to each individual. So this becomes really important because we need to know which badge goes to which person and what their unique URL is. And here we can also see who's opened their badge. So we can see this on an individual basis. And that becomes really important because we want as many people opening your badges as possible. Again, we look at that as engagement. And then we also have an analytics tool that allows you to see how often badges are being shared with whom and on what medium. So we call that, again, engagement, percentage of people opening their badges after receiving them, and then how many clicks have been on each badge. So we look at external clicks. So how many viewers are you having on your badge? Again, we want to see it more in a more nuanced way. We can see LinkedIn, Facebook, X, or email, and then how many clicks have been from each one of those medium. So a lot of these things, when we think about them all together as a holistic system, will help really describe not only the people who have earned your badges, but then who's looking at those badges. Because again, we want to look at reach. When we think about a return on investment in general for all of our organizations that we work with, that is one of the major things that they're looking for. Not only just the security and the ease of use for their stakeholders, but moreover, how many eyeballs are on their brand, how many people are looking at those badges that you are able to reach that you wouldn't necessarily reach with just a printable certificate. So that's the other thing that we're looking at. Last couple of things I just want to point out is just, again, those messaging things, because this becomes an important aspect as well. Somebody does not have to log into our platform in order to use their badges or to share them. So that becomes a really important differentiator and a really important aspect, because again, we're going to use that term engagement. How many people are using their badges after receiving that? So they're going to get their unique URL or their verification code in an email that'll get sent out. And all these templates are completely customizable. And then they can have different buttons to social media platforms. So when they receive their badge, they simply click on that social media platform of choice. It goes to that social media platform, and then they click share and it's ready to go. So it makes it really, really easy for your stakeholders to be able to share their badges across the web directly from this email. If they want to log in, we do have a full featured portfolio. So that's an option that they have. But for the most part, most of our individuals, our earners, will then just get the email that they that upon earning their badge, and then just share it directly on LinkedIn or on different social media platforms, or even if they need to send it to an employer, they can do so directly from that email. So that becomes, again, the most value that digital badges bring, is having all those different capabilities in one system for your earners to have that ease of use, as well as for you to be able to kind of move forward. All right, I'm going to go back into the different mode. So one of the other things that I want to just mention here in terms of that partnership with Cadmium, we have been in partnership with them for a little over 8 years, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful relationship. Sam and I met many, many years ago, so we're old friends. But one of the things that is so unique and special about our arrangement is that if you use the Cadmium site, they simply just turn the digital badging feature on. So again, from an ease of use standpoint, that really becomes a really important aspect, because the integration is so seamless. And I know Sam is going to share with his screen with you, just to talk about a little bit about what that experience looks like from your standpoint as a Cadmium user. So I'm going to turn it over to Sam so that he can talk about that, and then we'll go back and talk a little bit with Amanda and kind of go through some of the questions that are coming in. So take it away, Sam.
Thanks so much, Ginger. Yes, we are old friends. I'm turning 103 tomorrow. Ginger is turning 98 now. So thanks so much for the lovely introduction. So Ginger kind of showed you the badging side of things, but for those of you who are clients of Elevate or use or would want to be, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So those of you who use Elevate, this might look familiar. I am on, actually, let me go back one. I am on my dashboard here, and you'll see there's something called badges. So this is the learner, so your members, your non-members point of view. They are logged in, and they're clicking this badges button. And right here is where in the LMS, where I'm taking my courses and, talking to, other peers, where I don't have to go out to a whole separate platform like Ginger is saying, I can see all my current badges, my expired badges. And if I click on a current badge, this is the kind of shareable, unique URL Ginger was referring to, that maybe I want to send it to my boss or put it on my LinkedIn profile, right? Or however I want to, share that. And it's all right here. And then if any lapse, which is important, right? I might forget, oh, this is only good for 3 years. It'll go to the expired badges. So I'm not going to dive deep into how the actual integration is built, but all you need to know is that by turning it on in Elevate, you can set when people, finish this course, this certification, this package, then they are automatically, given those badges with whatever, prerequisites you set, and they'll show here automatically. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. And I think Amanda may have some fun questions for us.
Indeed, I do. First of all, if I can briefly just remind the audience, please go ahead and send your questions in the chat. I'm looking at those as they come in and happy to incorporate them into our conversation. We would love to answer your questions. All right, so now that we have a little bit of a base understanding of what this concept of digital badging and micro-credentialing is, Sam, I want to ask you the first question. Who is this really geared toward? When would someone look into this kind of digital credentialing?
That's a great question. So as some of you I've probably worked with in the past, I'm the chief person who's selling Elevate to new associations. And so all the time I get people saying, oh, I think we want to do digital badging. I have a board member who mentioned it. I hear it. It's a buzzword. My executive director likes it. And I'll stop and say, okay, well, what do you think digital badging is? So sometimes people say, yeah, you know what? After someone, takes a course, they should get a badge because that seems cool. And I say, okay, well, what do you want to happen with that badge? Well, it's so other people on the site can see, that they've earned this badge, and it might encourage them. So to me, that's not really a use case of the digital badging we're talking about. That's really more geared towards kind of the gamification element of LMSs, right? So maybe they get points, maybe they get, something pretty, but they don't need it to have, all the metadata attached to it of when it expires and who got it, right? That it's really more for gamification. Now, if someone says, okay, I want my customers to be able to share their digital badging on LinkedIn. I say, okay, that's kind of heading more towards, what Ginger's been talking about, digital badging. And then I say, so, what's the purpose of it? Why are they sharing it? Well, so they get name recognition. So our brand gets name recognition. So that certainly is a use case. Where I sometimes hesitate for people to use that is there has to be strategic thought behind it. It can't just be, yep, we're going to have these digital badges on LinkedIn and we're going to grow like crazy, right? Well, that's not really how it works. In my experience, where it works best is it's tied to some sort of course, certification, micro-credential that's meaningful in the industry. So that takes internal marketing, right? Maybe you work with all the, companies, in your space, and you say, hey, this is this really complex course and certification that we give to our members. And they say, oh man, that's pretty good. I would give, if my employees take that, I'd give them a raise, I'd promote them, et cetera, right? Well, now you've got a valuable offering. Now people want to take it because it's going to get them a promotion, et cetera. And now digital badging is the marketing tool to expand it. So generally speaking, that last use case is where it's kind of a slam dunk. The middle one, if getting out your brand, you can certainly do it, but there's some strategy that I think needs to go behind it.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Sam. Ginger, I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that, but I do want to pivot the question a little bit as well. If you could answer from the standpoint of someone maybe who's not in continuing education, like an association outside of continuing ed, or even a corporation, if you wouldn't mind tacking that onto that question as well.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we see in this space, particularly, I'm going to use the term micro-credentialing again, and I just want to kind of talk a little bit more about what that is. Micro-credentialing is not the same. A lot of times it gets conflated with the digital badges. Now, they are two separate things. Digital badges can represent a micro-credential. So micro-credentialing is really taking off in the learning and development space in general, mostly because there are lots of different use cases for it, from anywhere from organization that may have a bunch of webinars that are just in their in their system that they don't have like a structure around. So micro-credentialing can give that structure around things like that, where you can create a course around content that you've already developed. So you don't have to recreate the wheel there. A micro-credential doesn't have to be a hoop that you have to jump through from a certification standpoint. It can simply be something that you're recognizing some type of mastery or some type of participation in. So one of the things that we always look at is like, what are some of the different use cases in general for digital badges? So like what we talked about before, certification slam dunk makes perfect sense, where somebody earns a significant credential. They want to have something that shows that it is authentic, that it's, that they can give an opportunity then to share that publicly, that they can take it with them once they leave a job or something like that. That's a no-brainer. So that's sort of what we consider low-hanging fruit. But it's all these other kinds of opportunities that you have for recognition. Sam just mentioned my board member wants to, is interested in it. Board membership is another wonderful way to recognize somebody for it, because again, it's a volunteer position that they spend a tremendous amount of time doing. And they can say they did it, but we don't know actually what that means. So if somebody is participating in your board, that's a wonderful reason to give a digital badge. If you are attending an event and you have a giant conference, if you're a speaker at the conference, if you are somebody who is a content provider for an exam or an assessment, these are wonderful ways to recognize people beyond just certification that gives them a lot more gravitas with the credential, but it isn't a certification per se. So I'm going to go back up a little bit with that micro-credentialing piece. That's, again, where we're seeing the biggest push over the last year or two, because it is that opportunity. All these organizations are saying, okay, now what? We want to either generate revenue, we want to have another opportunity for recognition. So here they have this opening for, again, I'm going to use the term micro-credential to put around it, this opening for recognizing people to have a specialty area, or again, to have different learnings that are beyond just certification or pre-certification. Maybe they're not ready to sit for their exam yet for their certification, but you want to recognize them to keep them motivated within your industry. So those are lots of different reasons why you may want to think about and consider digital badges as a key currency for recognition. And again, it can span the gamut between all those different use cases that I mentioned.
And Ginger, I'm going to jump in. So maybe you can speak a little bit to, because you're more of an expert than me, like if someone wants to do a certification on average, what's like the cost and level of effort versus what are you seeing with the cost or level of effort for micro credentials?
It's a great question. And that is, again, one of the major things why organizations are moving towards micro-credentialing in general. I'm going to go back to this the concept of a JTA, or job task analysis, because that is something else. I mean, they're terribly expensive, as many people I'm sure on the webinar right now will attest to. But when you do that JTA, you may say, okay, we want to tweak some of the questions or tweak some of our certification. But this opens up a whole opportunity that you don't have to get accreditation for per se, that can give you that opportunity then to say, you know what, we were always wanting to recognize people for, I'm going to use an example. Let's say you're a echo sonographer, you take pictures of people's hearts, but there's a bunch of people who are doing that for pediatrics, or there's a bunch of people who are doing it in a specific place in the country. I don't know what there's lots of different use cases for that. You don't want to have a certification for that, but you do want to recognize that somebody has some expertise in that, or just, again, some work experience in that arena, something like that. So micro-credentialing can give you a lot less expensive way to look at that JTA, see some of those gaps that are there, and provide an opportunity as the anchor in your industry to recognize people for those nuances within different areas of expertise within that industry.
And what I'll add in, which I learned from Ginger, when you do want to get a certification, and Ginger's mentioning job task analysis, you have to, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to hire a psychometrician. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars versus a micro-credential, which, Ginger, that there's no real accreditation or anything. It's anyone could call a micro-credential anything, basically, right? So in essence, have you seen, like, it sounds like the use case you just gave is there's kind of in that use case right there was the big certification, but then they know they kind of got these specialties that's not quite accredited. So pediatrics is going to get their own micro-credential. Have you seen it where there's no kind of mothership certification, but people are saying, we need to increase our non-dues revenues? And what's been like successful there? Like, how are they coming up with the idea of, okay, we know this is kind of a need, or this is value? Is it, have you seen any success there from customers?
Yeah. So great question. So that, again, is where we go to, we have a lot of clients more recently in, let's say, the tech space, or individual clients who have hung a shingle and are interested in saying, okay, I have all these learnings that I want to present. I don't have a certification per se, but I am doing some training. I am doing other kinds of things. And so a micro-credential or a digital badge that represents a completion of that is a perfect use case for, and again, it goes exactly what Sam was just talking about, is that those are types of organizations that aren't certification bodies, but simply just training providers, that as somebody completes a course or a series of courses, that can be a really wonderful opportunity for a micro-credential. And as Sam was also pointing out, it can be everything, but that's where the metadata comes in, because you can say, all right, I don't really understand what this is. As somebody opens up a digital badge, they can see the criteria that somebody needed to move through in order to earn that credential from your organization. So not only is it give that opportunity to have links and other kinds of things so that somebody can learn more about your organization as the issuing organization, but moreover, somebody can see how rigorous the intent was for somebody to earn that credential. And so that rigor can really be represented in that metadata, and that's everything, because they're not all the same. Somebody can earn a micro-credential for showing up to a 10-minute thing, and somebody can earn a micro-credential for a 12-week course. Now, yes, they're both micro-credentials, and we call them the same, and yes, they're both represented by potentially a digital badge. But that's where that metadata comes in, because then you are able to see, oh, yep, no, this is a really rigorous course that somebody took in order to earn this credential, or this micro-credential.
And to add in, we have customers who, to earn a micro-credential, it's just taking this one course and there's a couple videos. Then on the opposite side, we have someone who's they've got to take an exam that is proctored, and we have a partner who does digital proctoring. They have to get a certain percentage, and then not only that, there's different categories of questions, which Elevate can handle, and they have to get, at least an 80% in each category. So how Ginger, or rather just to add in that metadata then of what they actually had to do could be quite valuable in the differences there, as Ginger was mentioning.
Absolutely. And then Sam, I'll kind of turn it around to what you were talking a little bit about. When you look across your clients, what what are the sort of different types of clients that you're seeing in general that are using the Cadmium platform, and then potentially even those that are choosing or not choosing to use digital badges?
Yeah, great question. So it's really a gamut. A lot of professional associations. Traditionally, now to be fair, professional associations are probably still the majority of associations and the majority of our clients. So it's always going to kind of skew that way. But yeah, a fair amount of professional associations are using it. Some trade. I'd probably like to see more trade associations using it, because I think it can be really valuable for, someone, an association offering, let's say it's welders, right? Hey, sign up your employees and they're going to get this digital credential for taking this test. And then, right, if they ever switch organizations, it's going to be really valuable for them. But yeah, right now, primarily professional.
And then along with that, I'm just going to kind of just put one more caveat there. That's where also the expiration features come in. So again, that becomes a really important aspect of digital badges and micro-credentials. We think of somebody who's completing a training as totally completed, they earn their credential and they're done. We see this as an opportunity for you to expire credentials to then have another touch point to reach out to somebody in a meaningful way. So maybe, yes, they took the course, they completed it, they earned the digital badge for completion, but then after a year, let's say, it will expire, and then they have to do something in order to reinstate it. So one of the things that we see is, all right, you can your badge is going to expire in 60 days. Please take this 3-question survey. How have you used this course in your professional life? What other content might you be interested in? Have you seen this, different course that we offer to you? Yes, no, are you interested in it? So it doesn't have to be completely onerous for somebody to reinstate their digital badge as an individual, but it gives an organization another touch point that, again, we all know that once you send emails out and you want to reach back out to people, they may or may not respond to you. But if there's something that you're taking away from them that they want to maintain, all of a sudden it becomes a lot more important. So what Sam was kind of talking about there is that can give another layer of engagement to an individual, as well as give you as an organization another opportunity to say, oh, did you also know that we have these 3 other courses that might be relevant to your work experience? Seeing that you've earned this badge for welding, in this type of environment, did you also know that maybe you want to grow your career? Here's another course that you might be interested in. So again, that opportunity to reach out to people in meaningful ways is really, really a vital aspect of that.
And just to add in, if you're giving any type of micro-credential certification on anything related to regulations, technology, like those change so constantly, it makes sense that it should expire. Now, if it's on, something that's typically, most stuff's not on evergreen stuff, but again, then it might not need to expire. But as many of you know, we have a certification module, which has kind of the ability to track whatever cycle you choose, every 5 years, every 1 year, every 3 years, it has to go around. And the content, does get updated for those exact reasons.
That's incredible. I love the built-in ability to follow up and have that have a really relevant reason, right? To have someone open that email and engage with you again. So that's really incredible. And also understanding really the breadth of different possibilities for using micro-credentialing. So thank you both so much. And thank you for asking each other questions. You actually covered a couple that we're getting through the chat already. So thank you for that.
Perfect.
I do want to ask the audience, actually, if you would be entering in the chat here over the next couple of questions, what would you like to see as a skill or achievement that you would like to see recognized through digital badging? What would be relevant for you in your career or maybe with your industry? Let us know in the chat. Ginger, you talked actually about this very thing. How can digital badges and micro-credentials boost learner engagement and retention? You spoke a lot about how you can really engage time and again with your customers, your clients, your constituents. Is there anything else you can speak to, and Sam, certainly you as well, in terms of boosting learner engagement from a standpoint of kind of keeping them like checking back in, right? You're messaging them to let them know, hey, did you know about this? Or maybe your badge is expiring. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that kind of comes in from an earlier standpoint to bring the learners in? Does that make sense?
Well, I'd say that one of the things that is interesting in the industry in general is that, let's say you're offering a digital badge for attendance at your annual convention, something like that. So that becomes something that attendance, okay, great, they paid for it, they move in and they kind of attend all the sessions, what have you. In the messaging that goes out to them, that'll say, congratulations, you've earned a digital badge for your attendance at this event, what have you. This is a wonderful opportunity because then they're getting something they can put it on, let's say their LinkedIn, just as a shout out, or they can put it again on their resume or what have you. But then in that email that goes out to them, it'll say, congratulations, you've earned it for this. Did you know that we have these 3 other courses that you might be interested in? Please click here to see more about them. So even in the messaging that goes out, we're providing you with something of the value add, and here's some messaging that can go out that can inspire them or engage them in some of the other offerings that your organization has. Because again, all the templates in our system are configurable that way. So we find that that's a really interesting way to do it. We also have one of the tools on our platform is also, if they haven't opened the digital badge, it'll send messages to them at different intervals saying, hey, you have a digital badge that's waiting for you. Did you, these are some of the values of it. Or did you know that, other people we have 35% of the other people who are sharing their badges on LinkedIn. Maybe you should as well. So the system natively will we'll call it nudging them. That's kind of, the marketing way of looking at it. It'll nudge them towards the kind of behavior that you're looking for. Because again, as an organization, there's lots of different values that you receive by issuing digital badges. You're recognizing them with something that's meaningful, but also again, as people are sharing them across the web, it really does give you that opportunity then to reach to an audience that you may not even reach to. Because again, if I'm in LinkedIn, likely most of the people in my LinkedIn network are in a common industry. So you're reaching out to them directly as they give their shout out. Hey, I just earned this digital badge for, doing this or doing that. But I want to even, again, I mentioned this a little bit before, but I think that there's also opportunities then, again, if I'm going to go back to that attendance at the conference. If I'm a speaker, yes, I can say I was a speaker at this conference, whatever it may be. In the digital badge itself, you can put a link to the video of that person's presentation. You can put a link to their PowerPoint presentation in the actual badge itself. So if somebody's like, oh, I wonder what it was, they can click there. It could be directed back to your website as an organization to that conference page, and then you can see who's clicking on it by just Google analytics and things like that. So you can see are other people reviewing that webinar, that presentation, or what have you. Or you can make that available not only just through your channel, but through an opportunity to work through the actual earner of the digital badge. So again, there's lots of other things that you can do with digital badges that make it really interesting as a tool.
I really like that idea. Free marketing, right? People are giving out your digital badge, which they earned. And then, your content that you own as the association, they're coming right back to it. And maybe you get a member out of that, right? Or some non-dues revenue. I love that idea.
Absolutely.
You can also put you can put your e-commerce page on there as well. So it's like, if somebody's taking a course, in one of those links, learn more. It could be, you could have a learn more and then a link, and it'll take somebody right back to where they can sign up for the course. So it could be just as easy as that.
Wow, that makes a marketing job much easier. So I'm hearing a lot of benefits of the different sort of variations, really, right? So from a credential that you really have to have a verified ability to say that you received it right. So like an exam that you sat for that was proctored, down to, something that's recognized just by an event or the speaker of that event, et cetera. I'm seeing a lot of really great uses here. I'm curious if either of you have really seen an impact on the long-term learning journeys that are taking place right now. Like, is there a shift yet in behavior that, Sam, especially like you're finding on the LMS side, that this is really the tide is changing, so to speak? Is it swelling, or are we already there?
Yeah, great question. So as Ginger mentioned, like when I first started back in 2017, micro-credentialing, it was there, but it wasn't a huge concept. Micro-learning was kind of the big topic back then. So definitely since COVID, started to hear about micro-credentialing quite a bit more, especially as like event revenue has been impacted or changed. Membership revenue has, been impacted since COVID. Organizations, associations are looking for increased ways for non-dues revenue, and education in general, right, is a really good way to do that, especially because most associations, that's part of the mission anyways. And micro-credential it's just it's beyond just like a course, right? So I'm getting questions, how should I package these together so it's meaningful? And Ginger, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, but I always go back and say, that's ultimately, how Elevate can handle any, just about any way you want to package it, right? But what's meaningful for your learners, or what's meaningful for their jobs? And so, Ginger, I'm maybe a little off topic, but I am wondering, when folks are doing micro-credentialing, are they creating theirs, if they bring you into that conversation, since I know it's a little outside of badging, are they bringing in, like industry companies in their space and saying, what do you all want to see? Is it already kind of self-evident to the association what they should be creating? Or have you heard any, what have they been doing there to figure that out?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things that we see is that there are opportunities then to co-brand a badge, as an example.
Cool.
So it may be that an organization says, okay, so I am I'm going to go back to the welders because that was on our topic, but I'm the Welding Association as an example, and I have 3 very large companies that some of my earners are participating in. So that might be a really wonderful way for, again, non-dues revenue or things like that, is to co-brand a badge or a presentation, just like what we're doing right now even. Okay, let's work together to create some content. A lot of the organizations, like the welders as an example, already have the learning management system as part of their, as part of their organizational infrastructure there. So they can go to that company and say, okay, let's co-brand a webinar together, because I know you have 60 welders under your umbrella. Let's co-brand a webinar together. The content is very inexpensive to make. It could even be just like this, or it could be even more, again, more discrete in terms of the different skill sets that you're trying to present there. But again, creating that content is fairly inexpensive to do. And then what the opportunity there is that the company, as part of the ecosystem within the welding industry, will say, okay, they'll say, okay, these are again, when we go back to a job task analysis, these are areas that we feel like our employees may benefit from. As the key anchor in the industry is, again, the Welding Association, they may then respond, create the content, and then provide that opportunity for those individuals to come onto their LMS and then kind of go from there. So I think it's really a wonderful opportunity for an organization to reach out to all the major stakeholders in their ecosystem to say, okay, what's next? What else can we do together? And really encouraging that that opportunity for community and community building and ecosystem building, I think, is a really vital way to keep an industry relevant and all the information up to date. And again, it may be a new technology comes in that you want to kind of present, so that organization then goes to the technology provider. I'm going to use I talked about sonography before. Maybe Intel comes up with a new machine. That organization then can go to Intel and say, hey, let's do a dual learning experience so that everybody can learn about your product. So everybody kind of wins there. Intel will win a little bit because they get to then present it to the stakeholders. The individuals who are earning the badges might learn a little bit and go back to their hospital system and say, hey, I just listened to this really wonderful thing. I got CEs for it. And, maybe we need to talk to this person on, at the technology provider stage. So lots of opportunities there.
I was going to say, how powerful is that for every person involved in that Intel example? For Intel, I mean, Intel might pay to have a co-branded badge, right? Because now that's free marketing for them. The learner gets a skill, right? Because that's also, they get a skill of how to use this new product, and then, especially in medical, like in this case, right? Doctors, nurses, they're always hopping, to different hospitals, and then say, oh yeah, here's my badge. I'm already trained on this. Oh great, I don't need to do what maybe the hospital has some routine they have to do. Oh yeah, we know that badge. Perfect, great. So, and then of course the association is just putting this all together and getting the revenue from it, etc. So that's just a great example of, I think, a win for every single person in that situation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then again, when, let's say I'm the nurse who attended that, I go to a new hospital. As they're looking through my resume, they'll be like, "Oh, what's this here?" And, "Oh, I attended it." It gives another conversation point to say, "Okay, I have I'm a little differentiated here or there. I know a little bit about this. Oh, can you tell us a little bit more about it?" It just provides another layer, another level that will help an individual kind of rise to the top of the resume pack, because it provides another opportunity for somebody to really see what somebody knows, and the types of things that they're committed to for moving their career forward.
And Ginger talked about this earlier, but just to re-highlight, the reason you need a digital badge for that, and not, right, because you might be thinking, well, I'll just give a certificate out and they can show that. How easy is it for me to copy and paste a certificate and then put it on my resume? Super easy. Anybody can do it. Unfortunately, there's going to be unethical people who do that. But the digital badge has the metadata and is verifiable. So they can click on the badge and know it's coming from this association, and it's, without Ginger going into the depth of it, it is very, very secure. And so that's the reason, right, why a digital badge is the right solution there versus just a certificate, or, anyone can give you a badge that's just a picture, but that picture is meaningless and anyone can copy it. It needs to have that metadata to it.
Mm-hmm. And it goes back to what we were talking about before as well. So what was the rigor that went into it? Was this Intel presentation a 10-minute presentation? Was it something that had an assessment associated with it? Likely not for that example, but we want to know, okay, what understanding does this individual have to earn something, from that attendance at that presentation or what have you. So, and it can be different for different things. And then that's where it all dovetails together.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. That was a really, really helpful segment there. I think just understanding the breadth again of what is capable, but then also, sort of the gates that are set. And I love that you can click on it and it tells you that information right there. So other people know what it is that you're talking about when you show your badge proudly. We're getting a lot of questions about the logistics of BadgeCert and Elevate specifically. So I want to switch gears just a little bit in this, to make sure we have time to go over all of these questions. And Ginger, let me ask you first. Let's kind of start with actionable steps that an organization can take. I have some that have already messaged and said, hey, we're an LMS customer. How would we go about getting BadgeCert? Is BadgeCert already something that's included as a package, or is it completely separate? So I'm getting some of those kinds of questions. If you wouldn't mind answering from your perspective, sort of some of those practical first things that people would need to do to help them know what steps to take first.
It's a great question. So the first thing that they need to do when the two platforms are talking to each other is it's called an API key. So what they're going to do is they're going to go on our platform. We have pricing on our homepage. So that's one way to do it, depending on how many badges you want to issue. You can certainly go in there, pay for the BadgeCert platform so that you can immediately get access to it. So you simply just put that in, you get access immediately. And if you are choosing to want to have that integration done, you just simply write support@badgecert.com. They'll provide you an API key. You then send that over to, if it's Elevate, to your Elevate account manager there. They just plug it in, and then you have both systems are integrated already. So it is literally that simple, and that's the beauty of having something that's so tightly integrated, is that, yes, they are two platforms, but they talk so nicely together. You will need a BadgeCert account because you want to look at the analytics on our side. You want to be able to create the badges on our side. You want to be able to input a lot of the different things. But most of the stuff, after you've done creating it on our side, you'd manage it all over on the Elevate side or the Cadmium side if you'd like to. So that's where it's going to all be managed. But we need to know which badge goes with which experience. So each one of our badges will have its own ID. So that's kind of the part where you're going to be functioning in two different platforms. And again, you'll want to look at the data on our side because that's what we're collecting. But it's really, again, easy just to get started. You simply go on our site, create an account, and then get that API key.
And I'll just jump in. There are some fees on the Elevate side as well for maintaining the integration. So you can just go to whoever your account manager is if you're an Elevate client, and they can help you out. Amanda, you can drop my email in the chat as well. And if you email me, I can forward it along to the right people as well.
I will do that. I'll be sure in our follow-up communications that we include contact information for both of you and information on how to follow up. since we have a few more minutes, I want to kind of go back to something that Ginger, you spoke about, and that's the data piece, right? So you've spoken about the data that you're able to pull from BadgeCert and the benefit of having a BadgeCert account and then the LMS account. Is there anything that we've not gotten to yet in terms of data and analytics? And Sam, really, I guess actually this question might be more geared toward you, since Ginger has spoken a bit about how that happens on the BadgeCert side. So let me open that question up to you.
You said Ginger, I stopped paying attention, Amanda. No. So if I heard your question correctly, it was what's kind of some relevant data, right? So on the Elevate side of things, right, it's not going to be related to what Ginger's talked about, which is how many times are people looking at the badges, have they opened it yet, right? It's really going to be tied more towards the certification, the micro-credential, the product or course. And so in that case, right, you're going to want to pull, how popular, all the normal things you would pull. How popular is this? Are people if this is a certification, right? Are people recertifying? That's kind of a good barometer. Is this certification not getting as popular because, last year we had 500 people recertify. This year we only have 250 recertify. So you're going to want to look at that type of data. And then even as granular as some of you probably already do, you can connect Google Analytics to our system, as well as some other tools that take more effort, but Google Analytics is right out of the box. So you might even want to look how many people are looking at our certifications page, or maybe if you create a micro-credential page, a unique page that you put some kind of those courses on, how many people are actually visiting there. So those are kind of the main ones I would look at to gather relevant information.
Awesome.
And then I think from our side,
question. Go ahead, Ginger.
Yeah, so I was going to say from our side, one of the things that I think is interesting, again, going from what Sam was talking about a little bit, is that our analytics also show engagement and relevance. So if you're finding that you just did you had a course, you had 100 people go through the course, and only 10 are downloading their badge, and they just and the messages go out and they're still not interested. A couple different things could be happening. One, you haven't marketed to those individuals. So you need to prepare them. Hey, at the end of the course, you're going to receive a digital badge, and here are the different things you can do with it. So what we always recommend is that we have a part on our side that is sort of the earner page, the FAQs. We always recommend that some of our clients then either recreate that or put a static page on their side that is just for digital badges. So if they are wanting to assign those to individuals, they know what they are, how they function. So that becomes, part of the aspect of that is that we want to make sure in our analytics, all right, if not that many people are accepting their badges or, wanting to utilize them, or they're not sharing them, what's going on here? So again, that marketing to your earners is important. The second part is that we want to make sure that the course was relevant to them. If they could care less about downloading their badge or sharing it, then that also will give you feedback. It's anecdotal, but it'll give you some feedback. You may want to reach out to those individuals and say, hey, we see that you'll have the list. Hey, we see you never, you never downloaded your badge. Can you tell me a little bit why? I'm just, curious about that. So it gives you another opportunity then to say, wait a second, there's something going on here. We're not sure what it is, but let's kind of figure that out. Because if the course wasn't as relevant as you hoped, that might be also another opportunity to say, okay, we need to either retool the class or, think about different ways to make it more relevant to our stakeholders. And then again, on the other side that I mentioned, when you see how many clicks are on each badge, let's say one has a tremendous amount of clicks. Well, that may mean that there's a lot of people in the industry or people viewing the badges who may be interested in that particular topic. Maybe you want to create more classes around that topic, or maybe you want to, make it so that it's you have a bite-sized piece of that. So it could be that it's a 10-hour course, but maybe you want to make a 20-minute teaser course about it or something like that. So the data will give you some other anecdotal feedback that you can read into, or certainly then do a quick survey of the people who have either downloaded or not downloaded badges, because again, that becomes a really important reason why you want to develop different products or different learning instances, as well as figure out, do you need to rethink the things that are existing.
What could be really interesting is right, because you've got data in two different data in two different places, is you might see, okay, I've got let's call it a group of courses, in Elevate that leads to a badge, and I don't have a lot of people taking them, but the people who do take them post their badge, and my goodness, so many people are actually viewing it. It's getting viewed everywhere. Well, in that case, now I know, okay, I need to promote the fact how popular this badge is. And, maybe you can actually talk to some of the few people who took it and say, did you get a job offer out of it, right? Maybe you make a case study out of that for your members, like, hey, this is really valuable. They're getting lots of calls about it. And that's kind of putting, the data on both sides of things. It helps you kind of get the full picture of how the market's reacting to a course that people are taking in the LMS.
Yeah, that sounds like a really great way to sort of start and sort of tip your toes, if you will, into digital badging and micro-credentialing, so that you're not going, okay, this is all or nothing. It sounds like there's really great opportunities and easy ways to sort of test it and see how it works for your organization. I want to thank you both so much for your time today and for answering our questions. There are still some other audience questions that we did not get to, but we will try to include information for each of you in the audience in our follow-up communications. So thank you for submitting those questions and for engaging with us. I do have a couple of just sort of closing remarks. A quick recap that I want to provide of today's key takeaways. Digital badges provide verifiable, portable recognition for learners. And I would even add to that all different levels, right? From highly, like what we said earlier, proctoring an exam or something that's very, very intense to get to, down to very personalized, individualized badges and credentials for your company. It's definitely a great recognition tool. Integrating these can enhance learner engagement, retention, and program efficiency, as you've heard. And practical tools like BadgeCert and Cadmium's Elevate platform make this a seamless integration and make it a really easy way to enhance what your organization is doing. So thanks again, Sam. Thanks for Ginger for being here and for talking with us today.